Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll receive insight, inspiration, and advice for living your purpose and making an impact as a conscious leader. You'll also hear inspirational stories of other conscious leaders who are living and leading from a place of mission, vision, and purpose. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with me, your host, Jennifer Spore. I'm really pleased and just honored to have as a guest to the show today, Madeleine Black. She has an unusual personal story which she uses to inspire and motivate others. She chose to forgive the two men who gang raped her at 13 years old, and she shares her story for many important reasons. She wants to end the shame, stigma, and silence surrounding sexual violence, enabling others to find their voice, whatever their story is. She wants people to know that it's not what happens to us that is important, but what we do with it. She demonstrates how changing her mindset tapped into her resilience and transformed her life, making people question their own thinking and encouraging them to see that there are always choices to make. And if we choose to, we can get past anything that happens to us in life, both professionally and in our personal life. She wants to encourage others to live their life courageously too, but ultimately, she wants to inspire hope and show people that we are all so much stronger than we think we are. In March 2018, she won the Amazing Strength Award at the #1 magazine, Amazing Women Awards, and in October of the same year, she was asked to be the patron for Say Women, a Scottish organization which offers safe accommodation and support to young women who are survivors of sexual abuse, rape, and who are homeless. She is one of 50 thrivers taking part in research by the global, the Global Resilience Project to develop a resilience blueprint for others. She is a 2-time TEDx speaker, a storyteller for the Forgiveness Project, and has recently become involved with their program, Restore, sharing her story in prisons. In June 2020, she was asked to be patron for Justice Is Now, an organization that campaigns to end the use of rape myths and victim blaming in the criminal justice system. In November 2020, she started her own podcast show called Unbroken. And in December 2020, she was asked to be an ambassador for freedom from abuse. And her memoir, Unbroken, was published on April 4th of 2017. I'm so honored to welcome you as a guest to the show, and I felt it important to take the time to share the longer version of the bio that you provided me, because I think you embody, and that's really the word I'm thinking of, you embody so well what I think a lot of people aspire to do, which is to have the courage to share their voice. So excited to welcome you and to have this conversation today.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's lovely to be here with you.
Yes, it's really an honor to have you here. I'd love for you to share with us a little more about what inspired you to, what was really like the turning point for you to take action to begin sharing your story?
Yeah, I was approached by the founder of the Forgiveness Project in kind of 2014. She wanted to share my story on their website. She'd heard about it, and she told me it could all be done anonymously. But, I was just tired of hiding and being ashamed for this crime that was committed against my body. So I agreed to share it, but I used my name and I used my photo. So that was the first time I had done that publicly. I'd taken part in other campaigns and newspapers and stuff, but I was always one of these silhouetted, photographs. It just said Madeleine, London, 50. It didn't have any details about me. So that was the first time I went public, and it really, I just really believe in the power of sharing our stories. And ever since that moment, it's just put me on this incredible journey. And it just, sharing your story or storytelling can be so healing, not just for me, but for people that listen, because it shows them that they're not alone. And sadly, my story is the story of many people, but storytelling, I think, if somebody hears someone else's story at the right time in their life, it's just got the power to transform their life as well.
I believe that too. I really believe that our life is our message, and, that every experience we have does serve a purpose. And I've found for myself, I mean, there are just so many different, segments of my own journey, and similar to you, it was my own life experiences that inspired me to do the work that I do today, helping others to align with their higher path and share their voice. But you said how it was exhausting to continue hiding. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, because it's true. It's so many people have been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is a weakness, that whether it's experiencing, sexual abuse or any other type of trauma, that we need to hide that and to not bring that up. And when we hold all of that inside of us, that energy, it manifests itself in so many other ways in our lives. You can speak a little bit more to this if you want, but I feel like it impacts our relationships, our personal and professional lives, everything. And there's really nothing more freeing than that moment when we're able to really just lean into our vulnerability and speak out.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many misconceptions about being vulnerable. We think it's a sign of weakness, and it makes sense really, because we want to avoid the hard places. We want to avoid the pain. Nobody wants to step into it, but by doing that, it's got to come out somehow, and it comes out in many other ways. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was only by facing all of these dark chapters and shadows inside of me that was when I really healed. The avoiding it, denying it, the just minimizing it, all of that didn't really work at all. But it's it's all part of the journey, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And there are always people awakening, around the world, but especially within this last year, there are so many people on the planet that are awakening, and there's the shift in consciousness that I feel like we're experiencing as a collective. Conscious leadership is one of the topics I'm so very passionate about, because it's become so painfully obvious, right, that a lot of the institutions, the beliefs around vulnerability being a weakness, the system that we've been conditioned to live with just doesn't work anymore. And so I feel like in terms of being able to sustain humanity in ourselves, to continue to evolve for the longer term, we need to have more and more people like yourself out there, leading by example. That's really what conscious leadership means to me. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, because it's interesting, when you first contacted me and said you wanted to do a podcast about conscious leadership, I thought, well, I'm not really a leader. I'm just a team of one. I don't really lead any people. And he said, well, you are. And so, yeah, I had to think about it. But I just feel like I'm just being me. I've just been on this journey. I'm just being honest. I'm trying to be as real and authentic as I possibly can. And I think maybe that's what it is. I guess everyone else will have their own idea, but I don't really think of myself as a leader, but I do feel like I can speak for people now that can't speak for themselves yet. And somehow it feels like that's my duty. If I've got that ability to be able to speak for other people and they can't find their voice yet, then it's my responsibility to help them to find it, because I am really okay now. And that's what I want people to know as well, that you can absolutely heal from anything if you choose to.
Absolutely. And I love what you said in terms of putting emphasis on the fact that it's a choice, because it is. I believe that, pain is unavoidable in the human experience on that journey, but that suffering is a choice, and I believe that we suffer when we choose to keep those things inside of us and to not process them. So I love that you bring that up, because we all really are empowered to choose
But yeah, you have to see that you're doing it first. And sometimes people are so caught by what they're doing that they don't see what they're doing. So, but once you wake up to it, then you can't unsee it. So when you see how you're caught by your trauma, I mean, you have to work it out, out of your body, out of your mind. You have to do that. You can't get to being in a choice without that. So I had to work it and work it. And once I saw I could fall back into it, or I could stay as steady as I possibly could with it, that's when I saw I have a choice now, but you have to be able to work it first. You don't just get to this place overnight. It's not a quick fix. It's been a process. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, really, the journey of healing.
It really is, yes. And there has to be a desire, for growth. That's something else that our society has largely promoted, right, is that there needs to be a quick fix to everything. And living purposefully or finding purpose is just as much about, as the everyday journey, like you said. I love that. What significance do you believe that someone's mission, vision, and purpose has in regard to their ability to embody their highest self as a leader?
I don't really know. I just really, now that I've got to this place in my life, I just really trust life now. And once I kind of, I guess, changed my attitude to trusting life, because I went from a place of life was just not trustworthy at all. Nothing was safe for me. I just go with the flow, and I think we can go with the flow, we can be in our flow, whatever you want to call it, and the door's just open. So I just think when you're open, the door's just open to you. So I don't make any decisions. I don't plan anything anymore. I just stay as open as I possibly can and just see what comes to me.
I love that. You don't plan anything at all.
Not really.
Not even a little bit?
No, that's all.
What was that?
I plan not to work too hard, that's all.
Oh no, that's really important. Yes. Yeah, I love this, what we're talking about here, because everyone has, there is a tendency to be attached to an outcome, right? Like everybody has their own perception of what they think is or isn't possible, or what they should or shouldn't do. And I really feel like, God doesn't put desires in our heart that aren't meant to be achieved. And so it's important to, it's our job to be clear in what we want and have the willingness to step forward in action. But as you said, to go with the flow also, and to be flexible to whatever unfolds, because there's so much more going on that we can't see, individually.
Absolutely, there is a lot going on, and when you're open to it, then you get to see, or you get to understand what's around.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of people in the world, that are in that place, in that crossroads of either amplifying their message or stepping out initially for the first time to start sharing their voice and their mission. What would be your number one piece of advice for those people to be able to take action?
Just go at your own pace, stay in your own lane, don't compare yourself to anyone else, because comparison is the thief of joy. So just, if you're not ready to share your story, you don't have to do it publicly. Nobody has to do what I do. You just have to do what's right for you, to listen to your gut, your instinct. But yeah, if you, I don't suggest that everybody stands on a stage and shares their story like I do, or go on the TV, the radio, but find someone to share your story with, because as you said before, it holds us back when we can't speak out. It doesn't have to be a therapist, it can be a friend, anyone, but choose carefully who you share your story with. Make sure it's someone that you trust, but there's something magical happens when we can give our dark shadows oxygen. It kind of changes everything inside, and it shifts the energy. For me, I kind of feel like I was frozen for years. I was in the deep frost, and when I was able to speak, which was the start of the healing journey, it just started to defrost all of that part of me that was just blocked off. So it stopped me being numbed out, I guess. I was numbed out for years. But yeah, speak if you want to speak publicly. But if you can't do that, find someone to share your story with, because I think to be listened to be heard, but to be believed, there's nothing more powerful than that. It's really important, but you have to go at your own pace, no pressure from anyone else.
Absolutely. There is no textbook to life. I mean, I really feel like that's one of the many beautiful things about being human, is that there are billions of us on the planet, but each one of us has a unique story, and not one of us is the same. And that is a gift. It's not anything to be ashamed of or to hide, Our lives aren't supposed to be cookie cutter. I love that advice. Thank you so much. I really could talk to you for days. If someone's interested in connecting further with you, where is the best place for them to find you?
Oh, if you just go to my website, it's madelineblack.co.uk, and it has all the links to my social media, my TEDx. Hopefully my second TEDx will be up soon, and links to my podcast. So if you just find me there, it's got everything in the one place.
Absolutely. We'll be sure to include all of that information in the show notes as well for the listeners. And congratulations on your latest TEDx talk. I just really admire and love the work that you're doing, and really am grateful for you sharing your voice for so many other people. Thank you for...
It's very different to the last one. The first one, I had an audience of 2,000 people, and this one I was at home in my office by myself in my slippers. So it was very different. I've done a real one and I've done a virtual one, but I'm pleased that I had the opportunity to speak to a big audience, because it was a great experience. It really was.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being a guest today. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can live your purpose and make an impact as a conscious leader, visit me at jenniferspore.com, and while you're there, be sure to join my email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.